Friends, just take a look. This isn't the sun you're seeing, but our Earth, 4.5 billion years ago. At that time, Earth was nothing like today. It was a fiery world, covered with endless oceans of lava. The planet looked more like a burning hell than the home we now live on. I've shared many stories about planets before, but today's video is extra special. And how did the moon come into being? The birth of the moon about 4.5 billion years ago, when Earth was still cooling, disaster struck. A Mars-sized planet named They crashed into young Earth at more than 9 kilometers per second. To compare, that's about 7 times faster than a speeding bullet. The impact was so violent that parts of Earth's upper mantle were blasted into space, while molten material from deep inside Earth shot outward. Within seconds, Earth became a molten ball once again. Much of that debris fell back to Earth, but a portion remained in orbit. Over time, this orbiting debris came together and formed our moon. Back then, the moon was far closer than it is today, only about 22,500 kilometers away, compared to the 3.5 million kilometers now. Imagine looking up at the sky and seeing a giant glowing molten world hanging just above Earth. The moon was born, but at the same time, Earth's size increased due to this collision. And that wasn't the end. Earth continued to grow during another violent era in its history. The Late Heavy Bombardment (LHB). After the Theia impact, Earth still hadn't settled down. For millions of years, it was bombarded by asteroids in an event known as the Late Heavy Bombardment. These constant impacts increased Earth's size by about 10 to 20%. But they also brought something essential for life. The arrival of water. When Earth first formed, it was too hot to hold water. There were no oceans, no rivers, nothing but fire and rock. So where did all the water come from? The answer lies in the outer planets Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. Billions of years ago, these giants weren't where they are today. They were closer to the Sun, and their gravity pulled on each other's orbits. Jupiter, being the most massive, caused the biggest disturbance. At one point, it started drifting inward toward the inner planets. Before it could wreak havoc, Saturn's pull stopped it and flung it back outward. But this gravitational dance pushed Uranus and Neptune as well. Neptune was hurled deep into the Kuiper Belt region, filled with countless icy objects, comets, and dwarf planets. As Neptune entered the Kuiper Belt, it disturbed these icy bodies, sending many of them toward the inner solar system. For nearly 300 million years, comets and asteroids rich in ice collided with Earth. Upon impact, their ice melted, slowly filling Earth with oceans. That's how water came to Earth. But water alone wasn't enough. For it to remain on the planet, Earth needed something else's shield of gases around it. The atmosphere. An atmosphere is simply a blanket of gases that surrounds a planet, held in place by gravity. For Earth, the atmosphere became its protector and life support system. It serves many critical roles, regulates temperature so the planet doesn't freeze or burn, blocks harmful solar radiation, prevents gases from escaping into space, creates weather and climate, allows for the water cycle so water can evaporate, form clouds, and return as rain, instead of vanishing into space. With an atmosphere and oceans, Earth had the two most important ingredients for life. And from here, the story of life itself would begin. There's something called an atmosphere, and Earth's atmosphere plays a very important role. When plants release oxygen, our atmosphere doesn't let it escape into space. Instead, it traps the oxygen around Earth, which is why we are able to breathe. The same happens with water. When it evaporates, it rises into the atmosphere, gathers as clouds, and falls back down as rain. But imagine if Earth had no atmosphere, then no gas, whether oxygen, carbon dioxide, or anything else, would remain here. All of it would drift away into space. Even water would evaporate and disappear into the void. Without an atmosphere, Earth would have neither water nor life. So, how did Earth's atmosphere form? When Earth was young, it did manage to capture some gases from the solar nebula. But because it had no atmosphere to hold them, those gases quickly escaped. The few that remained were blown away by the solar winds from the sun. So here's the real question. If no gases were left, then how did Earth eventually form an atmosphere? About 4.4 billion years ago, as Earth slowly cooled, massive volcanic activity began. This eruption was so intense that it covered the planet in oceans of lava. Scientists call this time the Hadean Eon. The word Hadean comes from Hades, the Greek god of the underworld, hell itself. And in many cultures, the underworld is imagined as a fiery, terrifying place beneath the ground. That's exactly what Earth was like during this period. But it was within this hellish time that Earth's first atmosphere began to form. The gases released by the endless lava were trapped by Earth's gravity, slowly creating a protective layer around the planet. Meanwhile, water from asteroids continued to arrive for hundreds of millions of years. This water collected on Earth's surface, fell again and again as rain, and gradually created oceans and rivers. Some of it seeped underground, where even today we pump it out for our use. This means that every drop of water on Earth, whether in the oceans, rivers, or deep underground, did not originally come from Earth. It came from space. So the next time you drink water, remember, you're drinking something billions of years old, delivered from the cosmos. By now, Earth had an atmosphere, but to protect it, something else was needed, a magnetic field. Earth's magnetic field. Have you ever wondered why Mars doesn't have an atmosphere? There's no liquid water, no rainfall, and life cannot survive there. If we stepped on Mars without a spacesuit, in just seconds our blood would boil, our brain would suffer damage, and we would collapse until death. Why does this happen? Because Mars has no atmosphere. And why doesn't it? The reason is Mars doesn't have a magnetic field. Without one, the solar winds stripped its atmosphere away, leaving it thin and almost gone. So, what exactly is a magnetic field? A magnetic field is the invisible force around a magnet that attracts or repels objects. For example, when you bring a piece of iron close to a magnet, that force pulls it in. If you bring two similar poles together, the same force pushes them apart. This invisible force is the magnetic field. Earth, too, has one. Deep inside Earth's core, molten iron is constantly moving. This motion generates a strong magnetic field around the planet, turning Earth into a giant magnet. And this field does something incredible. It shields us from the sun's deadly solar winds. Without it, those winds would hit our atmosphere directly and destroy it, just like what happened to Mars. Scientists believe that billions of years ago, Mars once had a magnetic field. It protected its atmosphere and oceans, giving it an environment much like Earth's. But when that magnetic field disappeared, Mars lost everything. Its oceans escaped into space, and the planet became a barren desert. Earth, on the other hand, was saved. Thanks to its magnetic field, the atmosphere survived and life became possible. Life on Earth. Now, Earth had both an atmosphere and a protective shield. But the biggest question remained: how did life begin? In our entire solar system, there isn't a single other planet with life. When Galileo first observed planets through a telescope in 1610, people imagined there might be civilizations on other worlds, especially Venus and Mars, since they are closest to Earth. Some even thought dinosaurs might still be alive there, since on Earth they were wiped out by an asteroid. But when spacecraft were finally sent to explore, we discovered the truth. Those planets never had life. Earth is the only planet in the solar system with life. And even in the vast universe, despite billions of galaxies and trillions of planets, we still haven't found solid proof of life anywhere else. Yes, we've seen clues like planets with water, atmospheres, and conditions similar to Earth's. But real evidence of life remains missing. That's why we can say, life is the rarest thing in the universe. And how exactly did life start on Earth? That's a big story we'll cover in part 2.